Welcome, new and old friends. My name is 242, and today 42 got us one story. It's full of nuggets, maybe a stuffed penguin, and an obsessive love that just can't be quenched. So, turn off your lights, make sure your doors and windows are locked. Things are about to get spooky. When I saw this job advert that promised free accommodations and covered living expenses, I was ecstatic and applied immediately. The elevator has been going down for 20 minutes now, and I'm beginning to regret my decision. Little Nugget by Tetra. What is it with romance? Why does it have to be so awkward and difficult? Movies and books play it off as a simple thing that anyone can do, but we all know that isn't the case. Hell, most people go their whole life without dating a single person. But hey, that's life, right? I guess not everyone is fated to fall in love. Yet here I am finding myself for the 19th time head over heels for someone. Claire reads. That is a someone who my heart has fallen for. I became aware of her in my first semester of college. I remember that day so vividly. I walked in searching for a seat only to have my eyes lie upon a snow-white beauty. Her long black hair paired perfectly with her ruby red lipstick. I couldn't tell you how I felt when I saw her. Of course, mind you, I felt that way before. I mean, who hasn't? But I feel like with her, I can take that small step and ask her. This might sound kind of stalkerish, but I did research and learned about some of her favorite things. Like I know she loves to order the same meal from this chicken place by campus. A number 6, a large chicken nugget meal with a peach tea. She must love nuggets because she orders it every time she goes there. So my plan was to order an extra and offer to her and then strike up a conversation. But life loves throwing curveballs. Either she won't be there on the days I decide to do it, or there'll be some other guy talking to her. Just my luck that happened. I guess I'm not allowed to fall in love. Still, I wish there might be something that could draw her eye to me for once. Maybe she'd feel the same and then we could be a couple. Sorry for the rambling about this, but thank you for listening to a sad loser. Don't fret, my friend, for love is a beat that many can miss, but treat it well, and it soon will bloom. A tall, slender man with a long, bearded hair spoke. He flashed a grin at the sad, romantic fool who slumped against the side railing of the bridge. The sad fool is Richard Dunner, a freshman at Canvas University. He had gone out for drinks like many sad romantics do to drink his problems away. That is when he bumped into a strange, well-dressed fellow on his way back home. The man had seen a sense of sadness in Richard's heart, striking up a conversation with the young man. Richard, in his drunk stupor, went to tell the man everything that weighed within his heart. Richard's drunken breath lingered in the air as he released a deep, long sigh. The man flashed a grin. In a snap, he held up a solid black card in his hand. If thou wish it, I can be of help. For those who lost in a stupor can only cry for help. Richard reached for the card, missing it the first 2 tries, but he finally grasped it on the third. He looked at the card and smiled a half smile that one does when drunk. What is this? There's nothing on it. He moved the card around, which it then shined with colors of neon. Oh, it's one of those fancy cards? Cool. "'Tis my card," the man said. "You can say, my dear friend, I'm the only one who can help. So, if you wish it, I can let it be that girl falls madly in love with you." Richard smiled a big old grin. Oh man, if you could do that, that would be awesome. Hell, you'd be the best wingman in ages. I wish Claire would like me. "Claire, is it?" the man said. Oh yeah, her name. Richard slumped down, pressing his butt onto the dirty ground. He let out a long yawn and scratched his chest. "Her name is Claire Reeds." He shook his head. "If it could happen, I would love to have her fall madly in love with me." The man nodded. "Very well, then so it shall be." The man's hair began to dance all around, shining with bright neon colors. Richard's half-open eyes watched in amazement before the drunkenness took him into a deep slumber. The warm sun rays beamed onto Richard's face, making him fidget uncontrollably from his sleep. He awoke from his drunken stupor, coming to realize he had mistakenly slept outside. With a red face mixed with drunkenness and embarrassment, he pulled himself with the railing behind him. He stared down at the morning traffic, his eyes straining to focus. Then a loud buzzing emerged from his pocket. He bent down to his knees as the buzzing began to stress out his hungover brain. He reached into his pocket, pulling out his phone, slamming his thumb onto the dismiss button for his alarm. Shit, time for class. Richard pulled himself back up. He stumbled forward, grasping the rail for support. With a still banging head, Richard sluggishly began his journey back home. Richard stepped out of the shower with wet, dripping hair. He stepped out with the towel wrapped around his waist, grabbing his clothes from last night. He stepped into the laundry room, tossing them aside. As he tossed the pants inside, however, out from the corner of his eye, he spotted a black card slipping out of his pocket. He paused at seeing it. The way it had fallen allowed for the card to shine with bright neon colors. He reached down to pick it up. Thanks to the shower, his hangover that haunted his brain had begun to disperse. But when he tried to remember how the card got into his pocket, his brain seemed to throb. He dare not deal with another pain, and tossed the card in a nearby trash can. He got dressed and brushed back his hair. He stepped into the kitchen and went hunting inside his fridge. A half a liter of soda, 1 slice of bread, along with 4 cubes of cheese, was all that had settled inside. With a deep, growling stomach and a deep, annoyed sigh, Richard slammed his fridge door shut. He gathered his wallet and keys to do what most did during these times of hunger. He went for something fast. Chucklin' Bucklin' was a fried chicken chain that spawned out of a small town from Nebraska. It was well known for their take on fried chicken, with their own claim that it needed only 4 herbs and spices to make theirs the best. Within the company's 5th year, a big branch company came forth offering a large sum of money to the owner, to which he accepted, but only with the rule that all the places followed his exact recipe. Holding true to that promise, Chucklin' Bucklin' flourished within the hearts and stomachs of the populace. Richard made his way past the sliding doors up to the cashier. His eyes followed through the menu like a pebble in a river. His eyes got sight of the number 6, the meal that Claire always gets. Before he ordered, he tilted his head to the restaurant, searching for any signs of her. Then he spotted her sitting in the same spot she always did, next to a window at the left corner. He turned back to the cashier, ordering 2 number 6s, praying that this time he could speak up to her and make some sort of conflict of accidentally ordering 2 meals and maybe possibly offering her the other. This time, he will make this plan work. With his tray in hand full of fresh, hot chicken nuggets, he made his way to the table in front of her. His eyes hovered on her as hers glossed over the book she was reading. Richard moved his eyes to her tray, seeing that her meal of nuggets was already gone. A small grin formed on his face. He sat down, brushing back his hair and fixing his clothes. He took a deep breath and released. Right as he began to open his mouth, he heard a voice. "Hey, you're Richard, right?" He looked towards the voice, surprised to see it was Claire. She stood over him with her bright blue eyes. Richard couldn't believe it. There she was, the person of his affection right there. Moreover, that she spoke to him. Oh yeah, you're Claire, right?" he said with a slight fidget. Claire plodded right next to him. "I don't think we've ever spoke before." Richard chuckled. "Yeah, I don't think we have." Claire's eyes moved to his tray. "Wow, you ordered a lot of food." Richard's mind then realized his situation. He sat up straight and began to shake his head like he had made a mistake. "Oh yeah, I woke up super late and was so hungry. I must have ordered 2 by mistake. I can't possibly eat all of this. Did you want a second one?" Claire looked at him with a slight blush. "Really? You don't mind?" "Of course. I mean, doesn't everyone like chicken nuggets?" Claire smiled at him. Her ruby red lips seemed to shine. "Actually, I order the same meal I come here myself. So, thank you for giving me one." Richard watched as Claire took one of the nuggets, bringing it to her mouth. He couldn't believe it. She was speaking to him, sitting next to him, and eating his food. Oh God, he wished he was that nugget. Claire finished the meal, licking up the ketchup that had stained her lips. She turned to Richard, smiling fondly. "Well, lunch was great, but I have class. Sucks because..." She paused for a moment. "I wanted to talk some more." "Oh, well, class is important," Richard said, though he hated saying that as he had just skipped his own. "Yeah, true," Claire sighed. Richard swallowed down his nerves. "Hey, if you have the weekend off, you want to go out?" The sudden realization of him asking her out came rushing at him. He shook his hands in a frantic panic. As just friends, not a date. "Sure," Claire flashed a smile. "Want to meet up here first? Around this time?" Oh, yeah, that's fine," Richard replied. He watched as Claire waved him goodbye, leaving him alone. Though being alone in such a place would cause him great sadness, this, however, was not the case. He did it. He asked her out. He jumped up from the seat in a joyous manner. "Fuck yeah!" He paused in embarrassment as he heard a soft laughter and saw the state of the strangers looking at him. He sat back down, grinning in victory. The weekend came by fast. Richard watched the time tick away as he waited outside the Cluck and Buckin for Claire. He heard her voice boom down the street as she came running up to him. She fixed her hair before smiling. "Didn't keep you waiting long, did I?" "No. You ready to have some fun?" Richard asked. Claire walked up, grabbing his right arm. "Sure am." With that, the two made their way to the marine boardwalk. There, they partaked in all the rides and games that the carnival there had to give. They went through stuffing their guts full of all the delicious and fatty foods they could. And at one point, Richard showed off his old baseball high school pitch by winning Claire a large stuffed penguin at the game of knocking over empty milk bottles. He smiled happily when he watched her snuggle her face into a large, fluffy penguin. They spent the rest of the day walking along the beach, coming to rest at one point, watching the incoming waves. Claire leaned her head against Richard's shoulder, her long black hair covering him like a blanket of incoming night. This moment was something Richard had wanted for a long time, and now he froze like a gargoyle. What could he do? He didn't want to come off too needy. The situation had flowed so natural, right? As he sat there twirling the thought in his head, he felt a tug on his shirt. Turning his head in the direction of the tug, he felt something press against his lips. It was a warm, sweet feel, one that left him speechless after her lips left his. Richard stared deeply into Claire, and once again they shared a passionate embrace. With the night coming upon them, the two returned to Richard's apartment, where their embrace became a full-body experience for the two of them. The only witness to this moment being the large stuffed penguin that stood in the corner. As morning light crept inside the next day, Richard rose up in a daze. He felt Claire's hand still gripping into his. The whole situation was something he had dreamt of, but once he had never thought he would have. After that morning, as they sat down eating breakfast, Richard finally asked if Claire would be his girlfriend, which she gleefully accepted. With that, the two nearly spent every minute of every day at each other's side. They would walk to class together, eat together, and spend the nights together. Every day had felt like a dream, but it wasn't a dream, and Richard knew that. Yet he felt like if he should make one small movement, like blink his eyes, that this would all vanish and he would wake up alone like he always did before having Claire in his life. It was one night during a session trained saliva that Richard, feeling a fear of disbelief, spoke out his concern. "Hey, sweetie, I wanted to ask you something." Claire left her mark on his neck. "What is it, my little nugget?" "Well, not to sound like a downer, but what about me made you want to speak to me? To be honest, I thought you didn't like me since you never even noticed me. I'm just curious." Claire pressed her head against his bare chest. "I don't know, or maybe I should say I can't explain it properly. I just remember looking right at you that day and feeling a force telling me to go to you." "A force?" Richard said. Claire giggled. "Love, you silly nugget." Nugget had been his nickname she gave him since he gave her his other share of nuggets. She reached up and kissed him. "Oh yeah, I guess love is a powerful force to give you to me," he spoke. Claire continued on kissing him, going from his lips down to his neck. Richard leaned back, letting Claire do her work, when he suddenly felt a powerful force clamp down on him. He pushed Claire back from him, who stared at him in confusion. "What the hell? That stung. Did you?" He pressed a hand down on the spot where he felt the force, then he felt the life drain from his face as he stared down the liquid that had come onto his hand. "You bit me?" he shouted. "Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I got carried away," Claire said with a slight giggle. Richard felt scared for the first time in his life around Claire. He jumped off the bed and walked into the bathroom, doctoring up his wound. That is when he met with Claire's eyes in the bathroom mirror. However, he wasn't staring into her deep blue eyes, or her black as night hair, or her snow-white skin. No, this time he was focused on something new. His blood that dribbled down from Claire's lips. "Hey, I'm not feeling so great. Think we can call off tonight?" he asked. "What? Are you sure I didn't make you mad? Claire asked. No, Richard replied. No, I'm just feeling a little under the weather. Claire licked Richard's remaining blood from her lips. Oh, all right, but I'll call you when I get home. Fine, get home safe. Richard waved goodbye from between the bathroom door. He let out a deep sigh of relief and walked into his living room, slumping down onto his couch. What the hell was that? He pressed his hand on the bite mark Claire had left. The following day, Richard avoided Claire, but questioned it. Yeah, she did bite him, but maybe she was getting a little too frisky and did it by mistake. Then why? Why did she stare at him with such eyes only a predator gave its prey? That's what concerned him the most. Pondering this in his mind, Richard accidentally bumped into a young woman. Oh, sorry, he said, offering a hand to the young woman. Thank you. Oh, are you okay? The young woman pointed to the bandage on his neck. Oh, this? Yeah, I'm fine. Let's just say my dad didn't teach me how to shave. Richard chuckled. The young woman tilted her head in a confused manner. Richard waved his hand while he chuckled. Don't worry about it. Sorry for bumping into you again. Richard! Richard felt Claire grasp his left arm, squeezing it between her breasts. What happened? You never responded to my texts. Oh, Claire, hey! Claire's eyes glanced over at the young woman, her eyes looking her from top to bottom. Who's this? She tightened her grip around his arm. Well, thank you for helping me up. I have to leave. The young woman left as fast as she could. Richard waved goodbye and then turned his eyes to Claire, who stared right at him. Hey, don't get the wrong idea. I bumped into her. I see, Claire said. She bit her lip. So why didn't you respond to me? Sorry, last night I kind of passed out after you left, Richard said. You're not mad? Claire smiled, then shook her head. Of course not, silly. I could never be mad at you. She reached up and gave him a cute little peck on the nose. Okay. Richard blushed a little bit from Claire's little peck. He rubbed the back of his neck, his fingers touching the bandage he had placed on the bite mark Claire left on him. His thoughts from last night returned. He remembered the passion love-making, followed by the painful spark from her bite. Then he remembered her eyes and how she stared at him. He couldn't believe it, but there was a fear that dwelled in him whenever he remembered that sight. He wondered why there was fear to begin with. This was Claire, the woman of his dreams, someone he finally had the chance to be with. She was sorry that she did it, so there wasn't anything to worry about, right? Hey, are you listening to me? Richard nearly fell back when he regained his composure. Oh, sorry about that, sweetie. Richard grabbed Claire's hand, just lost in thought. So, what do you want to do? Claire bit her lip and hummed. I'm not sure, but I'm sure we can think of something. Something is exactly what they did. No matter what he feared, Richard pushed it behind himself. He was crazy about Claire, and she was crazy about him. So, what if she bit him? He had heard of crazy sex stories of couples doing other things to themselves. Heck, he thought about doing some of that stuff in their lovemaking. Richard chuckled at the idea of doing something kinky in his head. He sipped a glass of brandy that Claire had poured for him after their 4th round. He had never drank brandy before, only drank the cheap stuff. The smell hit him right in the nose, and he couldn't believe how strong the smell was. He chugged it down, the entire drink, placing the glass with a heavy thump on the dresser. It was within the first step back to the bed that Richard began to feel weird. He reached back to the dresser with only his fingertips creasing it. Then, like a sack of bricks, he fell to the floor. Richard wasn't sure how long he was out for. He couldn't believe they had passed out from such a small drink. Then again, he had passed out before, but with the cheaper stuff. Oh, that one small weakness of his love to drink, but can't hold it. He woke with a rousing headache, much worse than the night he had slept outside. Had he hit his head on the way down? Wait, there's another feeling that's bothering him. It's like something is picking him apart, not like someone plucking his hair off his arm. No, it's more like someone is taking a cookie cutter to his skin. That's impossible, isn't it? Richard's eyes opened to reveal to him a sight that he wished he didn't see. Hell, he thought he was trapped in a nightmare. Right there on his chest, digging deep into him, was a cookie cutter, reassuring him that the feeling he felt was right on the money. That is when he noticed his arms and his legs were tied to the kitchen table. Huffing and puffing, he searched for Claire, hoping she was all right. That's when he heard her humming. He did his best to look towards the kitchen, bending his head backwards to see Claire dressed in only an apron. Her cute peach-sized ass that Richard loved, moving in the tune of her hum. Claire? Richard said groggily. Claire whipped around with a devilish little smile, a large butcher knife in her right hand.
Oh, hey, sweetie,
she said so innocently. What's going on? Why am I strapped to the table? And more importantly, why is there a cookie cutter in me? Richard asked. Claire skipped over to him, stabbing the knife into the table. She bent down, her black like midnight hair touching his face, making his nose itch.
I love you so much,
she spoke.
Claire? Oh, Richard, I just can't help my love for you. I have to have you all day.
Okay, I understand, but this? Richard said, using his head to point to his situation on the table.
Then, when I saw you with that other woman, I got so scared that you might leave me. I can't have that,
Claire said. Claire, listen to me, Richard shouted. He paused in his shout upon seeing those eyes. The eyes from that night digging fangs into Richard. Claire pressed on the cookie cutter, causing a great deal of pain to flood into Richard. He cried as Claire pulled it up along with a piece of skin and muscle it had removed. She swiped her finger along the bloody mess, bringing it to her lips and licking it away. Richard couldn't believe what he was witnessing.
Oh God, how I love you so much.
She walked back to the kitchen with the flesh she had cut. Richard couldn't see what she was doing, but heard the sounds of her chopping. Claire, please, why are you doing this?
Oh, little Nugget, Claire said without turning her gaze to him.
She rolled the chopped pieces of Richard's flesh in flour before dropping into a bubbling pot on the stove.
You see, this way I will always have you.
She turned back over to him, dragged the knife along the counter. Claire, don't do this, please. I'll never leave you. I love you so much, Richard said.
I know,
Claire repeated.
But this way I can have you within me. What greater joy is there?
But that isn't love, Richard shouted. Suddenly Claire clamped her hand over his mouth. She held the knife to his temple. Fear shot throughout Richard's body. It was then that he saw the strangeness in her eyes. The eyes were no longer eyes of a predator looking at its prey. Now they were the eyes of a desire-filled psychotic. Also, Richard could have sworn he saw a glint of neon flashing within her eyes. Claire, please, he cried.
Don't worry, I won't waste a single piece of you, my little Nugget.
Claire raised the knife into the air.
I love you so much.
Richard's voice became a shrill shriek as the knife came down. After all the painful shrieks had quieted down, Claire went back to preparing her strange meal of love. She came back to the table where Richard's lifeless and torn corpse lay. She sat down with the plate with 20 pieces of nuggets made from his flesh. She brought one to her lips, biting down upon it. Her lips quivered with excitement. Grabbing another piece, she then soaked it in his blood, adding the rich iron taste to his fried skin. After she munched down on her meal, Richard's blood flowed down her lips and onto the other pieces. She finished off her first plate and questioned if she should have another. Looking at his body, she assured herself there will be plenty left if she wanted a second. For now, Claire had him to herself and wasn't going to waste a single piece. After decades of torture and agony, I was finally lifted up in the sky, thinking I had served my time in hell. "Doctor, we lost him for a second," I heard the nurse say when I opened my eyes. And with that, we're near the end of this video. First of all, I'd like to thank the writer for letting me read their story. Thank you, Tetra, as always. Now, if you enjoyed the story as well, hit that like button and make sure it feels it. If you're new, subscribe and turn that pretty little bell to all notifications. If you'd like to help this channel/podcast, please just share it with anyone who might enjoy it. If you'd like to help in other ways, I do have Patreon, merch, and PayPal. And thank you all my patrons for giving me your support. It really means a lot, guys. Now last but never least, of course I would love a comment, but let me get you that Sunday word first. On screen right now is everyone who wrote me one about 2 weeks ago. I hope it was worth the wait, guys. Now let's move to this Sunday's word, which is prize. A thing given as a reward to the winner of a competition or in recognition of an outstanding achievement. Of course, there are more meanings to prize. So, write me a sentence down below using this word and you'll be on next week's video/photo. And of course, if you're on the podcast, if you @ me and use this word, I'll showcase you in the same way. But as always, guys, thank you for watching and listening. It really means the world to me. Sleep tight and don't let 42 bite.